the end of the day.
It's Mel.
And me. You wanna know
How we did it.
You wanna know how we do it. You wanna know
How we
we're
doing
doing
it.
Welcome to the Mel and Me podcast.
At the end of the day.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That's reminds me of my daughter. I ain't gonna call her name. She says that a lot of times.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
All right, but it's that time.
It is.
Yeah. Time for Mel and Me,
The podcast.
the podcast, episode
2.
And we didn't even rehearse that or script that out.
Not at all.
Episode 2.
Yes.
Yeah, so we wrapped up episode 1 last week. Had a lot of fun. It was our first episode.
Yeah.
And so here it is. We're
Trying to get the hang of everything.
Still trying to feel our way through things.
Yeah, this is definitely new for me. Just the whole YouTube thing, being in this space, doing
Video
this,
podcasting,
video
not
podcasting.
necessarily
Yeah,
YouTube,
well,
but-
yeah, video podcasting and all of that. So just because I'm more of an introvert, so to be coming to do this on camera and all of that, yeah, it took me a little bit to get used to it, but I'm getting a little bit
Yeah, we
settled.
slowly adjusting.
Slowly,
So we're
slowly
here.
adjusting.
And here we go.
Yes.
Episode 2, episode 1 down. So episode 2, I think is probably going to be, at least the way I feel right now, will probably be one of my favorite episodes. I think because of the subject matter that we're going to cover on this one, and it's quite frankly just exciting just to think about it. Just very exciting. And I alluded to it at the end of episode 1 last week when I said that we are going to talk about Africa. That's right. Going to talk about the continent and all the great things I think that are in store, I think. And so we're going to do that. I'm very excited about this, and I think it will be one of my favorite episodes because, it's something that we've been just kind of kicking around for a while now, really kind of been a few years, and we've taken some steps, and we're getting ready to take some more steps, right?
Yes, some bigger steps. Yes.
I think.
Yeah.
So we thought, I thought that, with the first episode, kind of discussing who we were,
Right.
who are we, Mel and Me,
Yes.
to kind of give, some insight into who we are as individuals, but more importantly, who we are as a team. And we kind of, in the first episode, we kind of went all the way back, right, to the beginning of how we just kind of hooked up and how we've kind of somewhat at a high level navigated through this whole thing.
Right.
That has been life for the past 31 years, right?
Yes.
Of being married. And so I thought that discussing Africa and what it is that we're attempting to do, it made sense, and I thought it was a good place to just, to do that as our second episode because, everything that we kind of laid as a foundation that we discussed in the first episode, I think has led us to where we are today, to where we are positioned. I like to use that term a lot, position, being well positioned for this or that, but it's placed us in a position to do what it is, that we're trying to do.
I agree.
So, so I thought this would just be a great thing. And then plus two, we've been talking about this thing here and there for the past couple years now.
Right.
And, we've had discussions with, different people about it and those types of things. And, we've gotten a certain level of input and comments and stuff like that. I've engaged on social media around it. And of course, this dog gets coughing. We got a dog sitting off to the side, man. We gave him a couple. I guess it would be CBD gummies, so he can calm down and not try to be all up in the videos.
Because he would definitely try to be in the video.
Yeah, and see now he is coming over here now.
Sit down.
You're not getting up in here, man.
Sit down. Thank you.
Man,
Thank you.
Yeah, so we gotta try to keep him sitting off to the side so that we can
Right.
do our podcast. So hopefully he'll just
we hoping
get high. He'll get high and he'll chill off his little calming gummies or whatever it is that
they
they
call
give him.
calming gummies. Oh my goodness.
So,
let's see how this goes.
We detouring a little bit.
Right.
So what was I saying?
About we've talked to people about
Oh
Africa,
yeah.
stuff.
So so we got various levels of feedback and that type of thing, and and so we've had these conversations and stuff. And I know how people get, man. It's like I thought you was moving to Africa and all this kind of stuff. You ain't going nowhere. All this kind of stuff. And it's not necessarily that we are moving, to Africa. And specifically, we're talking about South Africa, right? But, man, you cool?
Yeah, I think the tea went down the wrong pipe. Yeah.
So, but we have a few things that we're looking at doing that we're gonna get into in this episode and stuff. So I'm just excited to talk about it, and so that way we can just kind of I guess bring the world up to speed, if you will, or people who might have had questions, who might know us, or conversations that we've had, or just, more importantly, to give people something just to think about, right?
Yeah.
Because I mean, it's something that we're looking to do.
Yeah.
And I think it's something that honestly would be great for anybody to contemplate.
It could spark interest in other people,
especially Black people in America.
Yeah.
To be totally honest, with the issues that we face, and just the climate, man,
right?
The climate in the country and stuff like that. We romanticize so much about the African continent. We have my entire life, at different points in my life. There's a level of romanticism about the continent, and just a lot that we don't know.
Right.
That we haven't known, and a lot of that has been by design, and it's from our upbringing, right?
Yeah.
But we are in an age now, with us being in the internet age, and information is accessible and available. It's right at our fingertips.
At the fingertips, yeah.
Right. So we have access to information, and we can engage with people across the span of the world.
Yeah, and be able to find out what's true and what's not true as well.
Yeah, and build relationships and all kinds of stuff. So that's a big thing. So it places us, I think, in a good position to I guess, for lack of a better term, influence people. And I don't really like that term too much, being looked at as an influencer. I mean, we influence people, but I don't see myself as an influencer in this. Well, I guess I guess we are, in a sense. If we're on this platform, then I mean, we become influencers, in a sense. So, hey, we're gonna try to influence y'all, right? Those who will receive it,
right?
Right. So, but again, as always, it's just our perspective.
Exactly.
So, and our approaches,
right,
as a team, right?
Yes.
So, back to the continent, or what it is that we've kind of understood about the continent. Like in my experience. There's a few things that I've seen. I think about Pan-Africanism, which you're familiar with, the term Pan-Africanism and stuff like that, and just really kind of like a social political movement that seeks to foster, unity, across the diaspora, and of people of African descent, right? And there's a lot that's wrapped up into that. And you got the figures like Marcus Garvey, that you hear people always talk about. It's always a common, one of the first names that you hear when you look at those movements, and people like, I remember when I was in college, my boy, who's from the islands, who's my best friend, still remain in contact with him today here and there. You know, he used to, and at the time I was like 18, man, and he was we would listen to like reggae music and stuff, and he'd be, you know, playing Bob Marley, and we'd listen to Steel Pulse and stuff like that, and you know, you hear songs like, you know, Rally Round the Flag and stuff like that, and you know, he used to say stuff like, you know, repatriation, and I was like, what is repatriation? You know, I had no idea what it was, and he started, you know, talking stuff, and because my name is Marcus, right, he used to always call me Garvey, right, and because I was kind of, you know, we went to a private university, and we were like, you know, as far as me being a black kid from the South Side of Chicago at that university, that was something that you just didn't see, and so I was kind of like, I could probably be viewed as being a bit militant, being in that environment there because of who I was around. You know, I was basically that you know, that round square peg in a round hole, or vice versa, you know, however you look at it or whatever. And so, you know, he used to always call me Garvey, and he used to always tell me, man, you slack, boy, Garvey, you slack, you know, and you know, because he's Bahamian, and you know, he used to always I had a lot of fun with him. But my point is, I would learn about, you know, that's when I first heard about Haile Selassie and repatriation. I'm like, I had no idea what all of that was. And, you know, of course, that's linked to Rastafarianism. Okay, and if you're from the islands, then, you know, especially like Jamaica and stuff like that, you know, or the Bahamas even, you know, that's your thing. That's a part of your culture. So I picked that up from him, and that was my first experience. And then, of course, as you go through life, you know, you think about, you know, people that you encounter, or people that you have in your family, or relationships, or colleagues, you know, or you link up with people that are from the African continent, work with people and stuff like that, and you pick up here and there, you know, and that's really been my experience coming up. You know, now I don't claim to be a Pan-African, although, you know, I associate and affiliate and spin in circles with many Pan-Africans, you know, but I have never been really immersed, you know, into it.
And I haven't even really spent a lot of time. I just because I just, with me being in the house and stuff so much, and just not really being out a lot, so I really didn't have the opportunity to expose myself, you know, to a lot of people from Africa. So, you know, so you have that, you know, personal connections and stuff like that. And then you have the Western lens that we get to look through the daily news and what we get in school and stuff like that growing up, you know, and unfortunately a lot of that is skewed and biased. And some of it is outright lies and propaganda. You know, and so, you know, that's really our experience a lot of time when it comes to the African continent. You know, we see the commercials and stuff, you know, like the UNICEF commercials from the time we were kids, you know, and they want you to think that the African continent is just totally destitute and you know, in a bad way. You know, now granted, it's not the United States, you know, from an you know, a societal, a developmental perspective, but it's not just kids there with flies, you know, flying around the whole time either, you know. You know, and that's what you're led to believe, you know, and so, you know, it takes for you to get on the ground there and actually see that yes, it's a different society in many ways than our society here, but there are reasons for that. But at the same time, it's a lot like our society in many ways. When you're talking infrastructure, depending upon what country you go to, of course, which we learned firsthand, and kind of informs our outlook and some of our decisions, right? You know, so you get that, and that's the understanding of Africa. So always said, and you have kind of heard me over the years, where I've kind of made this, you know, this kind of, I don't know, I don't want to call it a wacky statement, but I've had times where I said, man, you know, I'd really like to die in another land. You remember me saying that? Yes, I do. I'd like to die in another land. And I think that primarily came from the fact that when you just look at sometimes just really, to be honest, just being black, you know, in America, right? Living in the United States, and just the burden every day that you carry with wearing and living in this skin, right? Sometimes it pushes you, you know, to those places. And it's like, you know, I wonder what it would be like to be someplace else and to plant my feet
someplace else and to contribute someplace else, you know,
Right.
and ultimately die someplace else, you know, because I've never been one who's been afraid to get away from all that I know. I mean, I did that obviously when I went into the military, right?
Right.
I left home
Yeah.
and left all that I knew to embark upon a new life, which led to, you know, which actually is what we've been, the
Right.
journey that we've been on, right?
Yeah.
So it's not something that I've ever been afraid of. You
But see,
know?
I was for a while. You know, I just being just afraid to just leave. I'm like, this is all I know. I don't know anything different. You know, just I mean, I was just I don't know. My mindset was I don't know, maybe one track mind. Like I couldn't see anything different, and I guess the fear. Why fear? I don't know, but it's just I don't know. I never even thought about it. You know, a whole lot, but
Right.
it hasn't been until the last couple of years when we started talking about it, as far as even want to explore, even having a thought, you know, about it. Which I don't know, maybe that's sad, but true. I mean, that's just honest for me personally. Like you said, you've made those comments to me, but that's not something that I've ever thought of.
Right, right. And so now you got me
Yes.
forcing your hand.
Well, I wouldn't
Yeah, 'cause you're
necessarily
like-
look at it as force my hand, but allowing me to be able to think beyond here.
Right.
You know, and to know that there's other places, other things that that I'm able to explore and do other than right here and right now where I'm at.
It's a whole big world out there, and
Yeah.
it's like the T-shirt that I have and the little mantra that I have. You know, the world is big.
Yeah.
Find your place in it.
Yeah.
You know, and because we have such localized mindsets, and we think that where we are is the only game in town, but that's
Yeah.
just not the truth.
Yeah.
And once you get out and you begin to explore the world, and you take in those sites and interact with different people and cultures and stuff like
But
that.
that's
you
the
come
key
see.
to get out there and do it, because
Right.
that's the only way that you're going to know, because that's what opened up my eyes even more when we were able to take the trip over there.
Yeah, yeah, which of course we'll talk about in a little bit. And so, a few years ago, it was prior to COVID that we really started to have some. Actually, it goes back, and I know what the catalyst was. It was back around 2015, 2016 time frame.
Oh,
2016,
Yeah.
right? Start to really look at things.
Yeah.
It's like, it's time to start entertaining some different ideas. And so, you know, I think that kind of got my juices flowing with it and start to really thinking about it seriously. And so, you know, you might recall I started this whole research process, man. I started to dig in. It's like, you know, presented it and was like, you know, what do you think about this? And so here's what I'm looking at right now. You remember I had like a spreadsheet and stuff, and I was looking at certain things like the first thing that I wanted to look at was like, okay, what countries? You know, there are always certain countries that you've heard about and stuff
Right.
like that, or certain countries that are popular. You know, and so I started to just kind of chart things down and put down a list of countries on the continent that I thought that I would be interested in, or we might be interested in, or I felt might be a fit or something to explore. And so, you know, I looked at things like in orders of priority, like if we had to prioritize things, you know, I
Right.
looked at things like the geographic location on the continent. One important thing that I remember specifically, and again, this is probably goes back to the programming that we get through the media and stuff like that, was political stability,
Right.
you know, of a particular nation, you know, because I don't want to go any place. I don't care where it is in the world. It's just doesn't have anything to do with the African continent, but anywhere in the world where it's not a stable political situation. And in
Right.
fact, ironically, you know, when you consider where the U.S. Is right now and where it could potentially go,
Right.
you know, we're not even set apart from that or exempt from that critical
True.
analysis. You know, so
Right.
and so that was something that was important. Things like currency.
Yeah.
You know, monetary system, the language that they speak, you know, because you might have to learn a language that you don't normally speak, or
Right.
at least learn to function within that, in a society where English is not the primary language.
Yeah.
So those are all, you know, considerations, you know, And another big thing, probably the key thing,
With the hospitals and stuff.
well, that goes to infrastructure,
Yeah.
right? Road networks, medical facilities and stuff like that, education,
Yeah.
Utilities, that type of stuff. The level of development, transportation systems. I don't know if I mentioned that already, but stuff like that. All very important things, man. Because me personally, I'm all for being elsewhere and stuff like that, but at the same time, there's a certain level of comfort.
Yeah.
That I like to have too.
Absolutely.
And then especially when you consider the infrastructure question, when you're talking about medical facilities and stuff like
Yes.
that,
That's
we're getting
critical.
older,
Yeah.
and we have conditions that we live with, like many people. And
Right.
of course, we know your situation, is can be pretty serious. And we need to make sure that, and as well as to some degree, even myself.
Right.
But the focus being you more so. You are the priority. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, exactly. Right. I was hoping that you would play the game or whatever.
Yes.
But anyway,
course.
but those are things in the back of my mind that I was thinking about. And that's
Right.
no joke.
Yeah.
It's like, we got to have situations in place where if things happen, we need to feel confident
Yeah.
that we can get the necessary care that we'll need,
Mm-hmm.
and stuff like that. So, and the fact of the matter is that some countries on the continent are a bit more advanced than others.
Yeah.
The
Yep.
infrastructure is a bit more developed.
Yep.
And so that was a key thing
Mm-hmm.
for me. So that was really just a part of the research that I just started to do, and just getting on the internet and just gathering information about that, and then presenting it to you.
Right.
And I remember, and the good thing about it is that it got me to thinking about like exchange rates and stuff like that of currency and stuff. Which of course I still follow now. I take a much greater interest in, from a macro economic perspective, just being money smart, if you will, right?
Yeah.
But it got me to looking at the different currencies and stuff like that in the different countries and stuff, and exchange rates, and that comes into play obviously with what we're trying to do now.
Yes.
Coming up is exchange rate, because that's going to affect certain moves that we make.
Right.
And yeah, so that's the thing. So yeah, that research was a big part of that whole thing. But I would like to think it kind of wet our whistle.
Yeah. It tweaked the interest a little bit more, as you were digging a little bit deeper, and then that, I think, just kind of really pushed us a little bit further, because like, oh, okay, this really is doable now. As you're doing the research, okay, so now we really can look a bit further into this and try to make the necessary steps to go ahead and try to make this happen. So
Right.
I think had you not done the research, then I don't know. But to me, that was important, because at least you was able to bring that information to the table, and then it allowed us to plan, because you must plan. This is a huge endeavor, so I don't think you should take on anything like this without proper planning.
Right.
That's critical.
Yeah, and that is because I being online and in different groups, like I've been a part of expat groups or social media groups, whether on Facebook or other forums, other platforms where people discuss those types of things. People who are interested in looking beyond the shores of the United States, and may want to move overseas or go work overseas or whatever, or just travel overseas. And you get a lot of that. So what point am I on?
I was talking about making sure that you plan before
Right,
you embark
plan.
upon
That's
an
why I was
endeavor
going
like
with
this.
this. Oh my God.
Because we've
That's it.
seen people go over there and then they don't make it long.
And
Come right
that's
back.
how I was, and that's why I was going with it. Man, I'm getting old. So man, okay, that quick. So and you do find that, and I used to get that, in those groups, and you even see it now, like when we watch, certain certain videos on YouTube and stuff like that. You get people that and personally, I don't see how they do it. You get so
I don't
many,
either.
many people that will just get up and leave
And just go.
Like they'll take, they got $500,
And just go. And
$500 in their bank account, and they get up or somehow, scrape up money for a ticket and think they're gonna jet off to Africa.
But
and
that's
live happily ever
misconceptions,
after.
though, I think a lot of people have. I think that comes down to a lot of people thinking, okay, though I may not have a lot of money, I can go up here to Africa. It's cheap, it's reasonable. I'll be able to survive off of here, off this little bit of money that I have. Then you get over there and you get that reality check. Like, I need a little bit more than
Number
when
one,
I
you need
came
a
over
job.
here. That too.
And I think too,
Yeah.
I think we get so caught up in this whole American thing. We have such a narrow view of the world. We think that even
We get
when we
tunnel
leave
vision.
out of, we think that even when we leave, we set foot outside of this country and we go into another country, that the world still revolves around us.
Right.
We think that we're going to go into another land and we just going to get a job just like that.
Right.
It doesn't work like that.
Not
Like,
at all.
you're the foreigner when you go into
Right.
the next person's land.
Yeah.
But we just tend to think that the world revolves around us, and we forget that once we leave the shores of this nation, it is us, it is we, it is us who are the foreigners,
Right.
right? And so you got to have things in place when you go into somebody else's land, because you're not a citizen.
Not at all.
So you're going in, you better have some financial resources, you better have your stuff together before you go over there. Otherwise, it won't be long before you find yourself
Not long at all.
having to come back here.
Real quick.
And so that was important to me in the beginning. Dog again. You got asthma, Leo?
You need my pump. I can get my pump for you. We may have to give him a few pumps.
Okay. So,
Okay.
but you may find yourself, coming back here.
Yeah.
And so for me, I was like, hey, if we're going to do anything, and I've heard somebody else say this on another podcast, and they're absolutely right about it. They said, Africa, if you're coming from here, it's a 5 to 10 year plan.
Right.
It's not something that you take lightly, because you're picking up everything that you know and all that you have, and you're going across the water, across the ocean, into another land that you are not immersed in the culture. You don't speak the language necessarily. You're not a citizen.
Right.
So you got to be straight. You got to be good to go. And not just up and
and
leave.
then understanding what their laws and processes are, because everything obviously is not going to be the same over here, and then
Right.
you will quickly see that things are a lot longer. It takes a lot
Right.
more.
They don't move at the same pace.
Not at all.
here.
Not
Yeah.
at all.
Yeah. So, I definitely, I always thought for us, in order for me to feel secure, I've always looked at it in the sense of, okay, I need to have a roof over my head,
Yes.
a roof that I can guarantee that's going to be over my head, number one.
Yep. That's
And
priority.
I need to make sure that we have the financial assets to sustain ourselves
Right.
when we get there. So if we did not launch a business or have a job right away, then we would be straight.
Right.
At least for some years before we would have to worry about, being on the street.
Right.
But if you take care of the having the roof over your head part,
Exactly.
you ain't got to worry about being on the street.
Exactly.
You just make sure you pay your taxes just like you do here.
Right.
On that property, and you're good.
Yeah.
If you own that property.
Yeah.
And that's the key thing.
Yes.
So that's why my thing is, we gonna own us something where we go.
Right.
We're not just going over there to live in nobody's Airbnb. We're not going over there to rent nobody's apartment.
Right.
For 6 months, 12 months, or whatever. We gonna have our own.
Right.
And so that figured into the equation as well, as where could we go where we could fairly easily, whether the environment is friendly
Right.
to a foreign national or a foreign investor coming in and purchasing property, right?
Yep.
And so then it's just a matter of trying to figure out how to make that happen, which of course we're gonna talk about how we have kind of done that, which your genius, of course, is always in play there. So then one thing I can say about the online groups and stuff is that it does kind of help keep you motivated and inspired to do what it is you say you would like to do, because you have a whole lot of other people out there that are like-minded and that are thinking in that same vein, and so they get out there, and you get some of them who actually take trips and go do stuff,
or who's already done it and can provide you with some of the pitfalls, pros and cons that can help you along the process.
Now you got a lot of pretenders out there too, a lot of people that, and then I think it's that I don't think it's that they're necessarily pretenders. I guess it's that we have things that we want to do, but then sometimes we don't take concrete steps to make it happen, or our priorities slip.
Right.
We don't manage our priorities, properly, and so it just ends up being a situation where it's all talk, right? We stay in a constant state of talk, and not taking concrete steps to make anything happen. But one thing I can say is that I did get a lot of motivation from being in those online forums and having exchanges with people, exchanges via posts and stuff like that, and even some back channel communications and stuff, with sharing ideas and stuff like that, and just inspiring each other, to move us to the point of when we start to take those concrete steps,
right.
However small they are, or whatever, and so that inspired us to the point of actually planning a trip to go there.
Yep.
And we're talking about, again, South Africa,
Yes.
which, by the way, South Africa is our choice, and we just think that South Africa is just the best fit for us, based on some of the things that we kind of alluded to earlier, the infrastructure there. English is the primary language that they largely speak, even though there are, I think, 11 official 11 official languages in South Africa, like isiZulu, I think it's pronounced Hosa, I forget what it's called. And some others. Sutu is another one. Another big one. But anyway, so but yeah, it was just a myriad of factors that came into play in us deciding on that. And then, aside from the fact that just South Africa is just a beautiful country, it's a huge country, and depending upon what part that you're in, whether you're in on the east or western Capes, Cape Town, or you're in Durban, or you're in Johannesburg, you just get a different a feel. It's a different life no matter where you are. Johannesburg, which is where we're focused on, it's going to be more urban. If you're more urban, Cape Town and Durban is more tropical, kind of beachy like, and I guess Cape Town is kind of similar to that, but Johannesburg, obviously, we think to be the best fit for us, primarily for what we do professionally and what our goals are for the future. I think that we see ourselves as having. So
right.
But so planning that trip was a big, huge step for us, and it was, I think, the trip of a lifetime.
It was.
Well, so let me just say this, because I would like to get your impression on this, but I was thinking about this earlier. Just when we got to the point of like even started discussing taking a trip like to Africa. Again, there's a certain mystique about the continent, I think, just with black people generally, and I think it's because of what we've gotten, over our lives about the continent. There's a mystique about it, and so having a chance to finally go, it was just like, it was unbelievable to me. That we were in a position to do it.
Yes.
And I'll tell you, when I think back, the way that I internalize it is this: I look at it like, when you look at and you consider where we come from, where I come from, and what I come from, and the same goes for you. I was thinking, man, when I looked and I saw us on there, even though we went during COVID, we had masks on, we were on the Delta flight heading over, and even though our daughter didn't get a chance to go with us because she had started her master's program, and she wasn't available to go, and it was just you, me, and our son. Even still in that moment, it was just like I almost had to pinch myself, because I was thinking, I couldn't help but go back to think about, man, you know what? From where we come from,
Right.
all
to be
this
able
time,
to do this.
to be able, and I looked at you, you know, and even, you know, you were still kind of going through some things, right?
Yeah.
I was like, you know what? For me to be able to take this girl, this woman, you know, from where and what we both come from, right?
Right.
And the journey that we've taken, and to be able to take her to Africa, to put her feet on the soil of Africa, something that we could have never imagined where we come from.
It was not even a thought in my mind.
Man, I was like, you know what? I wanted to pat myself on the damn back.
Yes.
Because I was like,
I'll pat you on the back. Yes.
Because, you know,
loved it.
because again, I think back, I'm like, you know, these are things that I dreamt about when I was younger, right? You know, I've always had the dream of taking that person that I was so-called, you know, sharing my life with or
Right.
whatever, and just doing these things. And it was just another one of those things that I was able to look and say, you know what? We did it.
I mean, I guess with me, it never was a thought in my mind, because I'm like, okay, I'm poor. I have no money. I mean, it's not like I can travel anywhere. I didn't even have enough money to even go to another state, let alone another country. So it wasn't even something that I even thought about. But when we got to the point where we were able to do it, I was just like, thank God. I'm like, now, hopefully I'm just well enough to be able to enjoy it. So I was happy for that, just health wise, you know, to be able to take that 15-hour flight. I'm like, I don't care. I'm going to do this. I'm going to sit there for this 15-hour flight, because I was just so excited, just for the opportunity to be able to do it, even with the constant canceling of the tickets.
Oh, yeah.
That was just a whole disaster.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about that in a second, too.
That was, whoo. But
Yeah.
just, we had to keep the motivation, like, okay, regardless, we still going to do it, you know, even with all of the back and forth. And so I was just happy about that.
Yeah, because I think back, you know, even though we've traveled a couple times before that, you know, obviously we went to Cabo San Lucas back in 2015. Yeah,
we couldn't even enjoy it.
It was different, you know. And then, you know, you and I went to Mexico, it was Acapulco back in 1997. You know, but those were our two trips together prior to
we haven't
going
done
to
a lot
Africa.
of traveling,
and you know, but my thing was that, and that's why I was cool with waiting and doing that, because I'm like, you know what, we're gonna wait and do it, but when we do it, we're gonna do it big. That was my thing. That's right. And it just brought me, honestly, so much joy to be able to sit on that flight with the two of you, and know that I was able to take my family to embark, and we can plant our feet in the soil of the motherland, that's what we like to call it.
And now,
and it was just a beautiful experience, man.
Yes.
So what would you say was the highlight of the trip for you personally?
The tour through Soweto.
The tour through Soweto, yeah, walking the streets of Soweto.
Was absolutely. I mean, our tour guide, he was
Sifo was his name.
Yeah, he was so thorough. And what was amazing to me was we were walking through some of the areas,
just the streets of Soweto, through the neighborhoods.
People
literally
were singing. They were singing Anita Baker.
Oh, when we went past the park.
Yes.
Yeah, we walked through the park, and it was on a Sunday.
It was on a Sunday. It was on a Sunday.
And they were out chilling.
They were out there singing. Everyone was so nice. They will speak to you. They even knew our tour guide, knew him by name.
Well, he lived in Soweto.
Yeah, I just think, but even just all of them, just knowing them and just, you know, the nice things that they had to say, it was so pleasant. But I think just to be able to see that, to see the people, how friendly they are, how nice they were, and the food was amazing.
Oh yeah.
You can see it is such a difference when you dealing with all that fresh food over there. It was absolutely, but that was the best part for me, to be able to see that, and going to Nelson Mandela's home. That was another big
house.
Yeah, that was another big highlight.
His home in
as
Soweto.
well. Yeah, and to have all of that explained. So that was the highlight for me.
Yeah, but I back to the thing about the park. But that's how it was when we were walking down the street, and I'm like, "Yo, is that what Anita Baker I was hearing in the background?"
Yes, and they were jamming.
And they were just So what they do is they on Sundays they take and they all just hang out at the park. They drive their cars, park in the park, and they break out their picnic chairs and stuff and the hatchbacks on their cars, open the doors and stuff, and they just chill, drink beer, no different than we do here.
Yep.
How we get down here in the United States, black folks, is exactly how they do over in South Africa on Sundays. Every Sunday they do that, and they just chill. So that's what they do, man, and that's how they spend their Sunday afternoons, just relaxing and just having a good time. And I just couldn't believe how much R&B and soul music, American R&B and soul music that they play, and that's exactly what they play. I'm talking Frankie Beverly and Mays. I'm talking Anita Baker. I'm talking Earth, Wind and Fire. They can sing. That's what they're literally listening to, blasting from their cars and stuff, chilling on the weekends over there. And this was in Soweto. By the way, Soweto stands for Southwest Township. And we learned that while we were there. I've always just known it as Soweto, but we didn't know how they came up with the name. And that's how they came up with the name. It's the Southwestern Township of Johannesburg area. But that was I'm trying to think what was the highlight for me. I mean, the whole thing was a highlight for me. The highlight for me was really just touring the properties that we visited.
The properties are real, man. Just the architecture in Africa is, I mean, it is unmatched as far as I'm concerned. It's absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, the malls, the malls are everything. Woo. Malls are everything in South Africa. I mean, your grocery shopping, you can do everything from your grocery shopping mall to buying a car. Like if you want to buy a Mercedes Benz, you can literally go into the Sandton City Mall to the Mercedes dealership and buy you a Mercedes from the same. And the malls are just massive. They're like little small cities.
Yes.
So yeah, but it would take you days to just do the mall thing there in a single mall.
Yeah.
You're talking all the high end stores. I'm talking just like you see in Paris. You got the Gucci, the Neiman Marcus's, who are some of the Chanel's, all that kind of crap, which I don't shop there. It's not my thing. Yeah. But you got Louis Vuitton, you got all that there as well.
Yeah.
So many highlights for me, man. But but I would say Mandela Square, having lunch in Mandela Square, man. Mandela Square, sitting, eating, with the big, huge, giant statue of him sitting there, understanding the history and stuff like that. Right. It was just unreal in many ways, man. Yeah. But I really enjoyed it, and there's and there's a whole lot more that I guess that we can talk about there. But it was a great time. But touring the properties and everything, and like you said, getting a chance to see the architecture and stuff, how they design homes and the build quality and just the communities and stuff like that. The self-contained, they have a lot of self-contained communities over there. They talk about upmarket and estate communities, where, in South Africa, there's a lot of so let me just detour here real quick. Let's talk about apartheid, because in the course of having conversations about doing something over there, you always get people that bring up apartheid and stuff like that. And we know the history of South Africa. They had a brutal apartheid system where basically, no more than 10% of a white population, mostly Dutch and, historically, British and stuff like that, basically oppressed, about 90%, of the population of South Africans. And they had a system that was in place that was no different than the American Jim Crow system. It was, in fact, in many ways more brutal. And, for generations, they had that system in place, totally unjust system. And they came out of that system in around 1994. And those of us who are old enough remember all the boycotts and everything that happened, Coca-Cola, You had all these American companies that began to pull out of South Africa, and it really began to impact the economy over there. And it basically, almost broke their backs, and they dismantled the apartheid system. And of course, Nelson Mandela, being a key figure in that whole entire effort, and did, I think it was 27 years in prison, I think, or some to that effect, as part of that whole entire struggle. And, excuse me. And so, they had that system, but because of, I think, what we are fed through the media and stuff like that, a lot of times we tend to forget that system was dismantled, and they've been under a democratic government since that time.
Right.
Now, here's what I would toss back to those individuals who take the position. It really is an uninformed and uneducated position a lot of times. I would remind them that the United States had the same system, okay? And here's the crazy thing that you'll find, and I think you might agree with this when we were over there. In South Africa, even given that they only came out of apartheid in 1994, whereas the United States has been out of Jim Crow, essentially, with the passage of the Civil Rights Act, right? Since, 1965? 1965, right? It seems to me that the socio-political climate in the United States, from a racial perspective, is many times, in other words, I think, when I look at the climate in South Africa from being on the ground and just the feeling that I had, walking the streets,
Right.
existing in that society for the time that we were there,
Right.
even the encounter that we had with the policemen over there,
I wasn't afraid or
they
anything.
are leaps and bounds ahead of the United States.
There was no fear at all.
One thing that you get a sense of when you set foot on African soil is that you no longer feel the burden of your skin.
Not at all.
And that's something that just blew me away, that setting my feet on that soil and navigating that society during the time that we were there, you just don't get the sense. You don't feel that it does not feel the same.
No. And like you said, even with the encounter with the policeman.
Yeah.
We weren't like, oh my God, what's gonna happen? Is he gonna pull out? It was none of that.
You never felt like you never feel like your life is in danger.
Didn't feel that. Not
You
once.
don't feel that overly uber confrontational vibe that, like, oh, I'm in charge and I can kill you right now and not be held accountable kind of thing. So I'm the man in charge, so you yield to my every whim and desire, and you better do it in the manner that I say you should do it, or you're gonna have a problem kind of thing.
Yeah, it was
You
none
just
of that.
no power tripping,
None
of that.
None.
It was just amazing.
Yeah, it was
You know,
very peaceful.
and I'm telling you, until you immerse yourself in that situation, man, you will never understand what it's like, and you will never be the same once you step into that situation and you come back here.
Right.
You'll never see things the same way. And so I just, and so when it comes to that apartheid thing, I think that we really have to be careful, or we should consider, the things that we say, and we should consider the lens that we look through, because we are so propagandized here, it's ridiculous, and they are, and I can tell you without a doubt, when you look at the racial climate, just to keep it totally real, the racial climate in the United States is much, much, much worse than you'll ever find in some place like South Africa. Because truth of the matter is, in South Africa, black folks essentially run everything at this point. Everywhere you look, again, black people are about 92% of the population of South Africa. That's why it blew me away, and it kind of makes me angry. I'm like, how in the hell could 8%, an 8% demographic for so many generations oppress 92% of the people? We know it was the gun. It's always guns and bombs, right? but it's just amazing when you think about it. And it also it reminds you, or it kind of reinforces in your mind that it's something that people should have the attitude like never again.
Right.
Never again.
Exactly.
How can you 8%?
Right.
My point is, and we were interacting with all sorts of people, because certain parts of South Africa is very diverse. Okay, and that's another thing. You will find it when you go. It's a very diverse population. You have a diverse population of black people, people of Indian descent, especially in the Durban area, and even in Cape Town. You have more of a mix in Cape Town and Durban than you do in Johannesburg, where a large concentration of most people are black in the Johannesburg area. Mm-hmm. But, still a mix of, Caucasian and stuff like that. You Afrikaans, right? Afrikaners, they are referred to as, as well as the different, black ethnic, groups within South Africa. But one thing you have to get used to, though, is the concept of black and colored. Right. Of course, here in the United States,
right.
You get called colored, you ready to fight somebody. But, over in South Africa,
right,
colored is a thing.
Yeah.
Because that's how they classify. And it's not that it's necessarily, I guess you could say technically it's a racial thing, but it's not in the sense of you are less than kind of thing. It's just how they classify their people.
Yeah.
Like you find that, people who tend to be mixed, or I guess even maybe some of those might be might be more Indian descent, might be referred to as colored,
right,
as opposed to black people who are classified as black,
right,
as opposed to the people of white Dutch descent who are white or Afrikaans or whatever. So you kind of have to get used to that, but you're not treated any differently.
No.
In our interactions with people, of all races that we had conversations with, a couple times when we were eating, had a great conversation with some of the Afrikaner, I guess. I don't quite have it down yet, but great conversation with them doing breakfast one morning and that type of thing. But the beauty in their coming out of apartheid in 1994 is they really are, and of course, there's still problems that are residual, from that system.
Yeah.
Right. No different than we still have a lot of residual issues here in the United States.
Right.
From Jim Crow. So again, we just have to be reminded that we shall not sit on a high horse and look down our nose,
right,
at what we view or have been led to believe is a lesser society, because it just isn't the case.
Mm-hmm.
But so it was just. It was just so eye-opening on so many levels, so many levels for us. So going during COVID, that was very frustrating, because we booked those trips. We were trying to go with all four of us at first,
right?
But then COVID struck and they locked down and they shut things down and you couldn't travel. And even if you could, you didn't want to take the chance of going over there,
right,
and then getting stuck, not being able to get back home. Because
they kept Africa. They were having their levels 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or whatever. So we also had to take that into consideration as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had their levels as well. So, so we ended up having to postpone the trip, I think 3 times.
Yeah, 3 or 4 times.
We tried for about a year and a half to get over there.
Yeah,
right. We booked like 3 different trips,
and they just kept canceling them.
And and the other thing they kept changing the flights and stuff to different hours and different days. I'm like, okay, we can't make this trip.
Yeah.
There was no, and then they had one flight that got pulled out from, we had like a connecting flight or something, and then they pulled the connecting flight. So it's like, okay, so how do we get back home if they pull the connecting flight? We're stuck. So we ended up, having to postpone the trip like on 3 different times. And one thing that you learn is that the time of year that you travel over is going to be key.
Yes.
Because that can make the difference between you're paying, let's say, $900 round trip and paying $2,700 round trip
per person.
So you per person.
Yes.
We're traveling over there 3, 4.
Yes.
That's a lot of money just in airline flights, and so that's something to consider.
Yeah, it's not a cheap trip by no
Right.
means. I mean,
Absolutely.
you're depending on how many people going. If it's if it's just one person, okay. But if you 2-3 deep,
Yeah, it
it
can
can
get costly.
add up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then the expenses once you get there. The
Right.
Airbnb and all of that. Yeah, renting a
hotel or
car,
whatever.
hotel. Whatever it is, they're
Food,
going to be food.
entertainment.
Yeah.
So yeah, so we so we had to do that, but we finally got a chance to go over there. And the other challenge that we had was planning it around the kids' vacation time from school, the school breaks.
Yeah.
Even though,
Which is why we were stuck right with that February. It had to be that
son
week.
was out on
Yeah.
winter break during that
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
So we had time to travel.
Right.
And everything worked out ultimately, and the three of us went over, and it was a great experience.
It was.
So, but that was just a trip, man, traveling during COVID. But I got to tell you, I was like, when we were heading back, like the day before when we went to go get that COVID test, I was man, I was sweating it hard, just really, really hoping that, we didn't contract COVID while we were there, because I didn't. And of course, we had the plan. I'm like, well, if I get it, y'all just take the flight back. I'll figure out something.
You have to have those. You have to have those contingency plans. If something ends up happening,
that's right.
What's Plan B?
What's Plan B? If you got it and I got it, sorry, I'll see you when you get back. We were planning. I was like, we might lose our job. Of course, fortunately we both got tons of vacation time. It probably be something that would make the company angry.
Yeah.
If we end up getting stuck. But you got the vacation time. My main concern was that if the boy, contracted COVID. I was like, we all stuck then, because there's no way I'm leaving my son in South Africa for an extra week or however many days it would take for him to get a negative test. And then how would he take care of himself? Nobody to watch over him in a foreign country.
Yeah.
And that was another thing, when you look at, even what it is that we're trying to do, those are all calculations, that you have to make, even, not only in the short term, but long term.
Right.
So yeah, that whole COVID thing was just, man, but we got over there and we had a great time. We got a chance to tour some properties and stuff, to go look at some what they call flats or apartments or condos, in estate communities, gated golf type communities and stuff like that you can buy into and live, beautiful properties, and for very reasonable prices, especially compared to here in the United States, where real estate just continues to get so expensive here, and that was another thing, of course, why I sought to get a real estate license.
Right.
Here in the United States, as a licensed real estate professional, during COVID, I went to school to get a real estate license, and I acquired that during COVID. And one of the reasons I had a few reasons that I pursued the real estate license, but one of them had to do with this South Africa thing. South Africa, like we mentioned earlier, has a lot, in many ways, is structured, like the United States. Its laws and practices, business practices and stuff like that, they kind of do things very similar. And in fact, I wouldn't be surprised, that their apartheid system, or vice versa, were modeled off of each other's, the United States and South Africa. But nevertheless, the laws are very similar. So their real estate law, their banking system and stuff, whereas we refer to people as real estate agents over here. Over there, they're just estate agents, whereas if you, I know a lot of African countries, there's no such thing as a mortgage. If you're going to own a piece of property, you're going to buy it outright. In other words, you got to pay cash for it, or whatever means of transfer that they have in place for it. Whereas South Africa, you can actually secure a mortgage, but that it's not called a mortgage over there. It's called a bond, right? Like they say, your word is bond. Word is bond, son, right? But it's called a bond. So you would secure a bond over there. And so one of the things that I thought might be helpful in navigating that system over there, especially since a lot of stuff that we would have to do remote, because we can't just be running back and forth over there, for a real estate transaction. When we finally get to the point of doing it, I felt it would help me in understanding, just how the real estate game works, because it'll help me in dealing with them over there, navigating that whole thing, and not having game run on me, for lack of a better way of putting it. So that's been a great benefit. As we move to secure a piece of property over there, that'll put me in a good position for dealing with them. But man, it was a awesome, man, touring the different properties that we got a chance to see. And, again, as Melanie stated earlier, they, the way that they design over there is just awesome.
Yes.
Did you have any particular thoughts about when we toured places? I know you, like the gym facilities and stuff like that, you were pretty impressed. And it was enough to...
I like that with their properties there. Mm-hmm. They're all inclusive. Everything is like on site. They make it so you really don't have to leave the property. You can do everything there, from the spa, getting your hair and nails done, massage, gym, restaurant. Everything is there. Basketball, school, everything is on site, and it's all behind, secured gate and everything. So I like that. So if I don't want to have to leave the premises, I can just go right down there, eat, do whatever it is I want to do, and then go back into the house. I don't have to stray far at all. The only difference, I would have to go if I wanted to go to the mall. Then I will obviously have to leave out then. But other than that, so I like that, because most of their properties there, that's how they are. And you don't see that here unless you're in these, I don't think they have any, I haven't known any here in the United States. It's like where it's all included. They may have some, but.
Well, think about a country club.
Oh, well, yeah, the country.
But it's like rich folks. That's how rich folks live.
Right.
Here.
But I mean, in
middle class.
Africa?
Middle class people live. Middle class people. Let me just put it this way. We, given where we sit in U.S. society, okay, and I don't, I'm just stating it as a fact, but I'll put it in terms of, let's just say, South Africans. A person over here in the United States, let's just say the average middle class person, let's just say the average middle class person in the United States, you can go to some place like South Africa, and just simply because of, let's just say, the assets that you might bring, or the income that you might draw, or, or whatever that you might command even over there. Of course, it would be a lower salary. Let's, like, for what I do here, if I did the same work over there as I did here, I would have to take a pay cut, a significant pay cut. But even still, the pay that I would make in South Africa would probably place me in the top 5% of the country. I mean, from a demographic perspective over there. Right. So, you can be a middle class person here, at least where things sit now. In the coming years, that's not going to be the case, because the growth over there is just crazy. Yeah. And that's also another motivating factor with why we're looking to pull the trigger on this thing like now. Because in the coming years, you're not going to be able to get over there, because it's, once people start to catch on, and once people's eyes start to open, and more people start to see things, and once that whole dynamic is to the point where you have more of that partnership,
right?
With the people there, opening up to working and partnering up with the people here, and we start to see that mutual benefit and stuff, and the growth potential that is there, and it's happening now.
Oh yeah,
it's happening now like crazy. Over there. And hey, trust me, China's over there investing big time,
heavily.
Is over there investing big time. And so that's why it's important that we, especially as African people, people of African descent in the United States, we have really got to make more of a conscious effort to connect with our people on the continent. Yes. And there are some issues to be worked out there. There are misconceptions from both sides.
Right.
And you see that type of stuff online. You see the arguments and stuff like that. And we're both being fed propaganda in both directions. And there's a lot of, there's some reconciliation that needs to happen. I think that's due to misunderstandings to some degree about certain things, and what our struggle has been here, what their struggle has been there, and the commonalities and the powers that have been involved in that. And so there's just a lot to be reconciled there. But it's happening. And you have more and more people that are being bold enough to take those steps and to extend those olive branches and to go and to invest and to move and to settle and to build. So you had the more that happens, man, I think the African continent, the 21st century is Africa's. You can take that to the bank. A lot of us, won't be here to see it, come to total fruition, but we'll fortunately get a chance to see some of it and even be part of it. Those of us who choose to be.
Right. Who choose to be. Yeah. Because
there's a lot of work to be done. So, yeah, man. So that's, so there are obstacles, that are always there, and some of them that we just kind of spoke to.
Right.
And we kind of hinted around. But some of the things that we looked at, specifically, and I alluded to earlier, was the health thing, the
right.
infrastructure thing.
Right.
You have relationships that you build with doctors and stuff. You got your entire medical history here, just as just like anyone
right.
who would be looking to relocate to someplace else. So those are things that you have to think about. If I go here, whether it be part-time, full-time, right?
Right.
And of course, we're not committed to doing anything full-time at this point. We're basically trying to secure our place.
Yep.
So that we can have to go.
So when we visit, we'll have some place that we can stay. Or if we have friends and family, to go, they at least
might inspire them to go
exactly
and visit. And you got some place to stay for a discount.
Yeah.
Can't stay for free.
But then having another piece of asset,
we'll give you a heavy discount.
Yeah.
But this is, you can look at it in the sense of when you're investing in stuff like that, you can buy a piece of real estate here.
Yeah.
You can buy a piece of land here in the United States up the street, for
a lot of money.
Suburb, whatever out in the country, you can do that. Or you can buy a piece of property elsewhere.
Yeah.
Right. So that's essentially what we're doing. We're looking to add to our portfolio, our investment portfolio. It just includes a piece of foreign property that we can enjoy, that we can run to in the short term, the long term if we need to.
Right.
We can retire there ultimately if we want to, whether it be through early retirement. Some of these investments come through.
Yes.
Because these investments come through. I'm done. We early retiring.
Yes.
We early retiring this next bull market. I will retire early. And find something else to do. Go somewhere else full time and build. Take my skills that I have, my skill sets, and my education, and go elsewhere and build.
And that's another thing too. South Africa. I mean, the country period. That's something that they welcome if you have different skill sets that you're able to bring to and utilize in the country. Because as they're building with the infrastructure and just even a myriad of other different things that they're trying to do, they need people who have skill sets.
Critical skill sets.
Critical skill sets.
They refer to them as
critical skill sets. Those skills are essential over there, and they welcome it. And so I think that's another way to, not only, us buying property over there, but be able to contribute to the country as well.
Right. That's grounds for a visa. You can get a visa, which, ultimately it would be on the path to obtaining some type of citizenship there. But you can get a visa there, based on having a critical skill set.
Yeah.
Which, if you're in fields like myself, if you're in the information technology field, which my wife, she's in social work. She actually has what's considered a critical skill set. Unfortunately, all four of us in our house, even though my son, he's only going to college now, he is also heading into an area that would be considered a critical skill set.
Yeah.
So I guess we got the whole plan for all four of us if we need to bounce up out of here. That's the way it works.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful thing, a great thing. And who knows, you can find it's all about reinventing yourself, or at least positioning yourself and having the option.
Right.
And that's what this is all about, more so than anything else. It's about having the option there to be able to enjoy it, on our terms, in the near term and in the long term if we want to, and I also think it would be great, having a base there, in South Africa. You can use that as a springboard, as I said before, and South Africa is so huge. I mean, you can go from being in Johannesburg, if you want to go down to Durban, which is 6 hours away by car. You can do that if you want to go.
And that's something I want to do, to be able to travel to the other countries.
Yeah.
We haven't been to the other countries. But then the other piece of acquiring a property over there too is something that we can leave to our children.
Right. Yeah, because we're in that phase.
We're
of
not
life.
going to be here, forever, but it's something that we can leave them. So that's important to me, to be able to leave our kids, some assets as well.
And it's leaving them with a connection to the African continent.
Right.
And so that's the great thing, because, one thing that we are looking at, and if we can still pull this off, is just making sure that we have not only just the two of us, but also our daughter.
Yeah.
For right now, as co-owners.
Yeah.
Even though we're buying it.
Right.
She's not giving us none of her money at this point. Now that she's doing her thing, got her little master's and in her new career field. So, but that's fine, because she's doing what she needs to do.
Right.
And
we support.
And so, it's just an administrative thing for us. It just makes it easier to transition when that time comes, that she can take it on, and her name is already, because again, keep in mind, it's in a foreign country. It's in another country where we're not citizens at this point.
Right.
So you want to have things in place to where, let's just say if we both drop dead today,
there ain't no legal situation about the property.
Exactly.
You need to know exactly who it go to.
You got a property that's sitting over there.
Right.
It's like nobody, now you're trying to navigate the laws as a foreigner.
Right.
Whereas if she's an owner on it as well, designated on the title to the property. Right. Then it just falls into her, a right of survivorship type of situation. So those are all calculations that you have to make when you look to do things like this as well, and those are indeed calculations that we're making. So yeah, man. So we just gonna go ahead and try to do this thing. So we're in the beginning stages of trying to make that happen. So making it so we talked about obstacles, careers, health, the kids, of course, they're doing their thing, and so we got them here in college and in her new field, and of course they're adults now. She's long been an adult, and we got another adult essentially, who they have to make their own decisions for their lives, right? So regardless of what we ultimately decide to do, and that could be some years down the road, we'll just be traveling, back and forth, but again, of course, investments come through, real estate market rebounds, we might be in a position to where, we fly over there for 6 months and stay at our house, and then we can come back here for 6 months and chill, do a couple real estate deals, go back over there and chill, but we gotta have the investments to come through in the next bull market.
Right. We shall see.
So we'll see. But even if they don't, we'll just continue to do what we do. We have our wonderful careers.
Exactly.
And we just continue to build on this side and just enjoy life as empty nesters.
Yes.
Doing our traveling, going to our spot over there, a few times a year. And when we're not there, have somebody property manage it for us, Airbnb it out, and maybe hopefully we can convince some of the folks out there to go travel and again stay at our place. You got some place to stay at a discount. Yeah, so that's the goal there. So obstacles and stuff, but we push through it. So another thing I want to say before we move to the next point, I was kind of surprised by this. So this is a big step. It really is a big step, and there's always a part of you, even though you're quite confident about being able to do things, and you're well positioned and stuff like that, So I kind of have a confession to make. You know, as much research as I do, and plans that I make, and us taking the trip over there and stuff, and kind of being gung ho at times about it, there's always still that little apprehension that tugs at me, that has tugged at me, right? And because you gotta think, this is a huge investment. You coming out of your pocket, and you taking a portion of your nest egg or your wealth or whatever, however you want to call it, and you're investing into something, and you're going into the unknown, and it's a big, huge step to take. They always say your home is the biggest investment you'll ever make in your life. Well, okay, we've done that 4 times now on this side, and now we're getting ready to do it, in another country, right? And so, but I gotta say, and this really surprised me, and I haven't mentioned this to you. There have been times where we had this discussion, and you've made a statement, and you said, you know what, and I really, and the look on your face that you like, I really want to do that. You're like, I really want. I'm trying to think the conversation that we had when you said it, and you was like, no, I really want to do this, and I'm like, okay, so on the one hand, it gave me a vote of confidence, and I was like, you know what, well, we're gonna go ahead and do this, because I know, at the end of the day, that if you're saying that I really want to do this, see, from a financial perspective,
right?
See, I already know that you looked at the numbers, and I know that you got our entire next 5-10 years planned out, where you're looking at things, you like, okay, we can do this.
I'm always looking at the money.
Right. So don't sound like that, though.
I'm just saying.
Okay, you said you're always looking at the money.
I'm just saying, especially when
from a management perspective.
Yes,
right.
Yes. I don't know. Maybe, that just stemmed from my banking days. Really, since I was a child. Well, I won't say a child, but a teenager. I've just always been strategic and conscious,
very money conscious.
I always had the budget book. I'm always looking and budgeting stuff out. That's just always big on me. Again, this is all part of planning.
Right.
If you're taking on a big adventure like that, not even a venture, but if you take a big endeavor like this, it all comes down to the planning. So the financial piece, that's one of the biggest parts of the planning, is the financial piece, because you have to make sure you can afford this investment. Otherwise, you need not take it on. And
you're going to be able to protect the investment.
Right.
That's the key.
Right.
And so, and that's why for us, the approach is on that side to pay it off, buy it outright.
Yes.
Pay cash for it. That way we don't have to worry about that bond. Because we started out doing that. I was researching. And see, the thing is, over there, you have to come with 50% down with a bond. So if you're going to spend $100,000, say, for a place, you got to have $50,000 cash. And they will give you a bond. You can take a mortgage out, which is a bond. Okay. And then from that point, you'll have a mortgage. But the mortgage, it doesn't really work the same as over here, where here is like 30 years or something like that.
Yeah.
Over there, I think it'll be 99. Like a 15 or 10 or maybe 15. No. When you say at 99, you're talking about a leasehold type of situation. That's a different. That's not a mortgage. That's a type of leasehold estate. When you buy a piece of property, there's a particular type of property ownership over there. Would be a leasehold estate, which you could purchase you would have a property, and it's yours, but it's not yours. It belongs to the government. You get it for 99 years. Of course, then you'll be dead, right? And then you have to make sure you have something in place to transfer it to your heirs. But basically, you have a lease on the place for 99 years. And then once that 99 years is up, it reverts back to the government.
Right.
But that's not the situation we're going into. But some countries that's big. I think West African countries that's a big thing as well. But that's what it is. But no, the bond, you would have the balance of that mortgage or a bond, which would be $50,000. You would then have to pay back over 10 years or whatever. And the thing is that the interest rates are higher too there.
Yeah.
So whereas we may be paying, let's just say if we're paying a 6.2%, interest rate on a mortgage over here, over there, you probably be paying 9-10%. on a mortgage, right?
But then the other piece of that, just the whole thing with you having an account there,
Yes.
it's a whole process, and it wasn't exactly easy,
Right.
And it was a lot. So we found it to be easier to
Right.
just pay
to just
outright,
buy
to
it
not
outright,
have to go through
just
all
pay
of
cash
that
for the house.
Yeah,
we
it was
actually,
too much.
when we took our trip over there, we actually went into a bank and went through the process to set up a bank account.
Yeah.
And we ran into an issue because of their back office process over there. Again, like we said, they don't quite move at the same rate as we do here.
And then back to the infrastructure. and
The
stuff,
infrastructure.
too.
So the technology infrastructure is not quite to the point where it is in the United States as far
Right.
as like having everything digitized, like the
Right.
back office systems. They still use a lot of paper files and paperwork shuffling
Yep.
rather than everything being electronic.
Right.
And so we got into a situation where they requested my passport after we got back, and I gave them a copy of my passport when I was there. And so I wasn't about to send a copy of my passport, via email, to them to move to the next phase, because we took pay stubs and all the required documents that we needed to open up a bank account so that we could have on that side that we were going to then deposit and invest from over there, and to have for the purpose of managing our property and stuff, which we're still going to have to get a bank account set up over there, and I'm kind of working through that process. We're going to have a bank account on that side, unless we move over to an international bank, which I'm not a big fan of all the banking fees and stuff with companies like Bank of America and some of the other Chase and stuff like that. Those are international banks that you can have an account with them and bank through them, on that side over there. But I prefer to have to affiliate with a South African bank. So we're going to give that another go. But those are things that you have to work out in the course of your transaction, because you obviously got to pay for your property and and any your taxes and stuff that you're going to have to pay from year to year. So it's a matter of working through those details and stuff, whether or not we wire money from our U.S. bank accounts over there periodically, or to make sure those things are covered. But again, some other challenges and obstacles, right? So there's so much more we can cover, and we'll probably cover in different episodes.
Yeah.
We're gonna I'll talk about the chronicling of the journey toward the end. So making it happen, as we kind of alluded to, started with our mindset. Because as far as mindset goes, why do you think mindset is important in order to make something like this happen? Because it's a huge sacrifice, right? It's a huge sacrifice to do something like that.
Oh, yeah.
So how does one's mindset come into play with doing something like this, or anything on this level, from your perspective? If you don't have anything, I can give you something. I can talk. They probably tired of hearing me talk.
I mean, I just think the mindset is going to be important, because it's going to help us to stay focused on seeing it through. I mean, if you don't have that mindset, then it's, to me, that's where you can kind of just fall off, and then you will start having it to where we're not able to actually see it through to the end. So I just think it will allow us to remain focused on the task at hand, which is to go ahead and push through to the end, with knowing that we're trying to achieve the ultimate goal. So that's
Right.
pretty much just how I kind of look at it.
Yeah. So I think mindset. So in order to make this happen, there's a lot that we've had to do, right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, on the financial end, there's a lot of maneuvering and stuff that
Yes.
that you've had to do. As far as our monthly budgeting and stuff, and specific moves that we make, the lifestyle that we lead on a daily basis here, and that we have been leading over the past many years now, with how we prioritize our lives and what we decided was most important to us.
And I think maybe we can do that as a part 2, because I think I would really like to focus in on the financial piece, and just with some of the sacrifices that we've had to make. I think we can have that as a separate piece to really kind of delve in deeper into that, to give people a better understanding of that. So just in case, if this is something that you may be thinking about doing, maybe have some conversations about, or want to do it, maybe you're looking at doing it now, to kind of see what we're doing currently now and what we have already done and continuing to do as we're making this journey to try to complete this endeavor ourselves.
Yeah.
So that's what I would recommend.
Right.
Do.
So, but that mindset is, like I was saying a second ago, is, you have to be okay with living your life a certain way from a financial perspective. Now, I mentioned this earlier, how when you look at the vacations that we took, okay, we in 2015, and we did it as part of celebrating our daughter's graduation from college when she got a bachelor's degree. We took that trip to Cabo San Lucas, right? Before that, we had not traveled since 2009.
Right.
And where do we go? In 2009, where do we go?
Acapulco, right?
No, that was 1997.
Oh, we haven't been anywhere.
Okay, so that was the last time we took vacation. Was 2009. We took a vacation. It was 2009.
I know.
We went down and did the Florida thing.
Oh,
we went 2009. The Disney thing.
I don't consider that.
SeaWorld and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So from 2009.
I think we're going out.
No.
I think Florida. That's why I didn't even come to my mind.
It was 2009 that we went down to Florida and did the Universal Studios.
Yeah. I remember
and
that.
SeaWorld.
Yeah,
and it wasn't until 2015 that we took another vacation where we traveled.
Right, exactly.
And we went to Cabo San Lucas.
Right.
And we did that to celebrate daughter's graduation from college when she got her bachelor's. But I'm saying it was that span of time.
Right.
And during those years, of course, we were putting her through college.
Yeah.
So that was a sacrifice for that. But, even still, we didn't take it upon ourselves to splurge where we didn't need to. We dialed it back. And that's how we pretty much lived. I mean, we prioritized things, right? And so that's the mindset in saying, you know what? I'm on social media every day. Now, I'm not on social media every day, but I'm just generally speaking, right? So you see things on social media, like you're constantly bombarded with images of people traveling and stuff, going here, going there. Like I tell people all the time, whenever I see people in Vegas, I'm like probably one of the only people I know, other than you, because you've been with me,
right?
That's never been to Las Vegas. I've never been to Vegas.
It's many of the states I have not been to.
Yeah, but I'm talking. Yeah. I'm saying like Vegas. I say Vegas because that's like a must go spot for anybody. Like certain things are sexy. It's like Jamaica.
Yeah.
The DR, Dominican Republic,
Bahamas.
Las Vegas, Bahamas. All the standard stuff that people tend to do.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. No, we have not done it.
Have not done any of that.
Have not done it.
But we've been to Africa.
With it.
But we've been to Africa.
Right. Exactly.
Right? So
exactly.
That's the way I see it. It's the mindset. It's not important for me or us to keep up with what everybody else is doing.
Yeah.
Right? A lot of things are sexy.
Yeah.
Like just like, the last few years you look
sexy is money.
Yeah. It costs money to be sexy.
A lot of money to be sexy. Yes.
And so it's not something that I need necessarily. We're okay with the peace of mind. That's what's most important to us. Our day-to-day peace of mind.
Yeah.
We got a roof over our head. We can do things if we want to do it. We can do it. We plan it, appropriately and stuff like that. So that's that mindset that says, I have to be okay with watching everybody else do this and do that and, turn up, let's turn up, right? But we don't turn up.
No.
You know what I'm saying? We just chill.
Right.
We just chill and go about our days and stuff and keep life simple. Try to stay plugged into the kids, and that's the way it's been, right?
Right.
That mindset: save, invest, don't squander money.
Yeah.
Right. That's what it's been. And when you do have to spend, spend with somewhat of a purpose, right? And make sure it's something that you can recover from in a fairly quick amount of time, right? So that's the mindset. What's important to you in life? What's important to us in life at this point, right? And we decided that, the materialism thing don't matter. I don't clothes, cars, jewelry. Hell, we just sold my car And you know, I put it on my social media page because I was trying to get people whom I always give my social media circle first dibs on anything that I'm looking to sell. Anybody want a car? You know. But yeah, that's one of those specific things that we did, man. Our priorities in life, it's like, I don't need it. You know, it's gotten to the point where I didn't need the car. I only bought the car in the first place because the boy got stranded at school last year when you had an appointment that you had to go to and you couldn't pick him up. And because his school was far away, you know, I didn't want to have that situation happen again, so I went out and bought a car.
Right.
Well, that gave us a car payment again, which we didn't have, right?
Yeah.
And so now you don't need it anymore. Do we need to have that second car with him going to college and not being here and not having to take him to school every day? Nope. And given what we're trying to do, get rid of it.
Right.
And so we did, right? So, and I'm perfectly okay with that because guess what? I can go out of here and go to the store. I can go downtown, walk the street, hang out at, any festival or whatever. And I can feel good about who I am because I know I'm not defined by that car. Because I ain't got the little fly vehicle, to drive around. That particular one. We got a second one, but, and so I'm cool with that. I'm cool with not, wearing the expensive watch anymore. I'm cool with not going to the restaurant and having the finest meals all the time. We can eat here. It's cheaper, right?
Yeah.
You getting sleepy, aren't you?
Yeah. Yeah.
How you gonna get sleepy on the damn podcast?
Okay, I'm getting tired.
Anyway, tired. So, but anyway, so you have to position yourself, and so the last thing, a couple last things we'll talk about since you getting tired and all. I cannot believe you're gonna sit here on camera.
Okay. It is
and
what
on the
it is.
microphone.
It is
you
what
can't
it
do
is.
that. We can't be doing this.
It is
like
what
that.
it is.
Oh man, don't do that. Don't
It
do
is what
that.
it is.
See, that's what happened when you've been with somebody 31 damn years. They keep it real too much, and they don't care if they're on camera, on the microphone, or nothing.
I think folks can understand.
No,
I'm not
they
the
can't
only one.
understand. We trying to give information, man.
We would be giving a lot of information.
Anyway, okay, it's about to melt down now. Y'all get ready to see some of the real stuff right now, because I'm trying to get through this. But last part we'll talk about is family implications and pushback that you get from people that and whether they be family, friends, or whatever. And it just kind of goes back to the thing that, why South Africa? Didn't they have problems with racism? Blah, 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 blah. People will try to find, when you're doing something that other people are not doing, or something that's outside the box, the natural inclination is for people to push back on it, or people think that you're not going to do something, or maybe they don't want to see you go or whatever. Like I said, it's not that we're necessarily going anywhere, but I look at it like when I was 18, as far as planting my feet someplace else, or being able to be someplace else, whether it be on a part-time basis or whatever. That's just what it is. We've gotten well used to being separate and apart, from family and all that we know, because that's what our existence has been. So it's not like that, I'm going up the street to visit somebody 3 times a week anyway. So it's no different than us living where we live now or where we lived in the past, right? So if we just have someplace else that we're traveling, it's just another place that we're traveling. So, I don't see any real issue with that. And again, other people can go visit, can come visit. They just save up the money and get a passport and come do it. You want to come hang out, we can kick it.
Right. Yeah.
So, but I don't think we should ever allow, and we as family members, we should never try to clip the wings of our people. If people have an idea, dreams about doing something, even if it's someplace different, we should encourage them, and it's always good when we can do that. That's just, we all have our lives to live, right? So, but yeah, like I say, this is a long-term endeavor. It's not something that, we're looking to pack up and leave and disappear and stuff like that. Now, if I come into like a big, huge sum of money or something like that, like somebody posted on their Facebook this evening, what would you do if you got $1.2 billion? I don't know what that came from. I don't know if the lot, like the Powerball jackpot or something,
Probably.
Mega Millions is really big or something.
Probably.
And that's what it's because I know typically when you see posts like that, it's because of something like that.
Right.
But I said leave the United States first thing, and I would, if I got that much money, I would go somewhere else in the world.
Yeah.
And just find something different.
Yeah.
Find a different life.
Yeah.
Because that's interesting to me.
Yeah.
I want to when everybody else is going in this direction, I want to go in that direction.
And now that I've experienced, something different too, I think that makes a difference.
Oh,
if
you
you
woke
have the
then for a minute?
Huh?
You woke for a minute?
I woke up. So it's me. So I start zoning off. But then it may take whatever to go ahead and wake me back up again.
Right. We understand.
But yeah, but when you have the opportunity to experience something different too, I think that in itself, I know for me, going over to Africa, I'm like, okay, yes, I've seen something different. I experienced something different. I really like this. So I would like to do more of this. That's why when he said, I was like, yes, I want to purchase that property over there. That's why I was adamant about doing it, because of the experience that I had over there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we got some more trips to make over there, obviously, which we might be going back over there in the next couple months, depending upon how things go with the talks that we're having, with the real estate people over there and stuff. So we might have to make a trip in a couple months to go over there, and then of course we'll be back there after that. So we just got a lot of stuff ahead of us that we have to plan for and stuff. So we'll see. So final thing that we're gonna cover real quick is that associated with all this, we kind of came up with an idea, and we kind of started capturing footage for as well. I think what we're gonna do is I would like to do a documentary on this entire process. Just do like an independent documentary, man. We got cameras and everything now, man. So I started capturing some footage of different things that we've done throughout this process, and as we continue to go through the process, I think it would be very cool to produce an independent documentary. And number one, just to see if I can do it, as a creative. I think it would be fun, and if we can put together something that chronicles this entire journey that people can look at and maybe become inspired by. The ups and the downs, the excitement associated with it, and all that kind of stuff. I think it would be great. So, I don't know how long it's going to take to get that done. It's going to be sometime down the line, because obviously it's, there's a lot of things that we have to capture footage-wise throughout the process, and then all the editing and stuff, and just polishing it up. But, I expect that that's going to be something to come in the near future, as a documentary of our journey. And then we're also going to, in future podcasts, I expect that we're going to talk more in depth about it. Who knows? And as always, we invite you to like, comment, share, subscribe to our channel, because this is not the last time we're going to be talking about this, and there are going to be different points throughout the process. I think that we'll probably share information about that, and just the whole experience of being property owners, and who knows what else on that side of things.
Yeah, and then also drop in the comments if you're looking to go to Africa, if you've been to Africa, and what your experience was like as well. We like to hear what your experience was like if you've been there.
Yeah. So that's something that's going to happen as a documentary. At least that's my plan. So we're going to wrap up so that you can get some sleep. I tell you. But that's been this episode, which I thought, it still probably be one of my favorite episodes, I guess, even though
I think we'll have, like I said, I think in the next one, I think maybe we can do another one, again, going back to it, but talking about, the financial piece. I think going a little bit more into that, and kind of what that looks like, because I know for me, we've watched different other YouTube videos, people talking about either moving to Africa or trying to move there, but from what I've seen, a lot of them don't really go into a lot of detail about it, so you really don't really know the ins and outs. And if this is something that you're trying to do, I think it would be helpful to kind of, see, so going kind of along the lines of the documentary that you're going to do, so people can kind of see that. I think it's important, because that's what when we were looking at videos and stuff, trying to get information, but it's just like, okay, they give a little tidbit, but it's like, well, what does this really look like behind the scenes? And so until you actually go through it, and you don't know. So I think kind of delving a little bit deeper into that will provide additional information to those who may be seeking to do the same thing.
Yep. So with that, we'll just call it the last point as we wrap up. It's been a good show. Might have been a little bit longer than I initially planned for, but yeah. So next episode, next week, we're gonna talk about sprint or marathon, right? Sprint or marathon, and that'll be an interesting topic, because again, it ties into this, and we kind of spoke on it a little bit earlier, or we alluded to it, as we approach life. How do we do things? Is instant gratification our thing, or are we more strategic and long-term thinkers? And why is that important, and why that works? May not work for some,
right?
But I guess just get our perspective on it and how we've applied it in our particular situation, and how it's helped us to navigate things, and to, I guess, get us to where we are as we sit before you in this very moment. So with that, we're going to call it one, and it's been cool.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Somebody else is over here sleep on the floor.
Yeah, good. The dog.
Them little gummies work.
Oh, yeah, he's high. All right, well, hey, as we like to say, at the end of the day, it's
Nell
and me, and this has been
the podcast.
Talk to y'all later.
Holla.
Bye.